Thank you very much for sharing your time with me this evening in order to learn a little bit more about animal communication, well, the healing aspect of animal communication. So on my lap here is my little boy. His name is Seek. And it just feels so fitting that he decided to come and sit on my lap in time for our class this evening. So a while ago, Cindy from the School of Intuition and Healing asked me if I would do this talk, and she said specifically, please focus on healing. It's that part of the work that I would like you to focus on. So I, as Mark said, I come from a line of nurse, well, many years of nursing, and I often used to wonder, you know, how come I'm in the situation where I don't always see eye to eye with the way that things are done, because patients are not being treated holistically. And little did I realize that I would end up years and many years later running a holistic healing practice for both humans and animals. So a huge part of my practice is actually animal healing, and it's always such a fulfilling part of things. But then Cindy said, what are you going to talk about? And my first the words that came out of my mouth was, I'm going to speak about touch, because touch is so very important. And clearly there was some other animal guides saying this is what people need to know more about, is the importance of touch on animals. So I'm going to be speaking, as I said, about touch, but then we are going to speak a bit about chakras, also going to speak about a simple body wrap. So just very simple tools that we can use to help animals. And then right at the end, there are going to be 3 natural recipes for calming animals, and also for reducing pest infestations in animals. So that is what I will be doing. And obviously this talk will be available to you, so don't worry to write down the recipes or to try and capture them in any way, because you'll be able to get the talk and then write them down in your own time. So let's get to touch. You know, people underestimate the effect of touch on the human body and on the animal's body, in fact on anybody's body for that matter. And I realized this when, as a nurse, we used my speciality is neonatology, so intensive care neonatology, looking after very ill, mostly premature babies, and how touch actually impacts these children. And then I came across a report in the Lancet journal many years ago that spoke about the effect of unpleasant touch on little people. So babies that were in intensive care units that had drips put up and tubes stuck down their noses and all that type of thing, and how this affected them later on in their life, down to the effect of psychopathy actually developing in these beings. So there certainly is a lot to be said about both positive and negative touch. The amazing thing is that it affects us all in such a profound way. And when I say profound way, I'm speaking about physically, emotionally, mentally, real positive effect from good touch and negative effect from bad touch. So what is the thing that actually makes touch important? There is a hormone called oxytocin that is secreted from the brain when we experience good touch. Exactly the same in animals. So they have this very powerful experience as a result of good touch. I'm sorry if I'm moving around, a dog that can't get comfortable. So oxytocin is what we are aiming at. And there are many other hormones. There's prolactin, just to name another one of the hormones that is secreted when there's good touch. And I ask you to look online, and there will be, this guy's name will come up on a slide, but Jaak Panskep, and what he has to say about touch. And there's a little video that he has regarding mice and the work that he did with mice, to be able to prove, and there he is on the screen now, young Jaak Sep, the work that he's done with animals and touch. So before we get there, let's just speak a little more about oxytocin. So oxytocin is not only secreted by the brain when there's pleasant touch, but it is also secreted by the brain in increased amounts when the person that is creating the touch has a smile on their face. Now, I don't think there's anybody on this call that is not an animal lover, and I know that so many of us are absolutely devoted to animals, and when we touch our animals and when we see our animals, we automatically smile. Like how does one not smile when you see your beautiful animals? So that already is helping to secrete that hormone of oxytocin. But touch is vitally important for this feel-good hormone to be secreted into the body. And in behavior circles, they speak about this thing called the care system. And basically, the care system is the way in which one cares for another. In this instance, we're speaking about animals. So how do we care for animals in order for them to have a joyful existence and a comfortable, trusting existence in our world? And I find that the animals that are in shelters, I mean, for me, that's the saddest thing, is that they frequently, because there's so many of them, they frequently do not get the touch that they need. And it is something that we need to think about, as can we just go to a shelter and just spend time with animals, touching them, because it is so important for their physical, emotional, and mental growth. So, yeah. There's also a part of the brain that's called the somatosensory cortex. Now, if you go online and you have a look at a picture, excuse me, if you have a picture, look at a picture of this somatosensory cortex, you will see that it maps the entire body. So when you touch an animal's head, a human's head also, this is for all of us, when you touch an animal's head, you will be creating a certain effect within the physical body. When you're touching the animal's tail, there will be a different effect. And it's all happening in the brain as a result of the area of the body that you are touching. In other words, when you touch the entire body, you are stimulating the somatosensory cortex of this animal in order for them to experience these feelings of love, comfort, joy, etc., etc. So really important to understand that it doesn't help just to pat the dog on the head. I wish people wouldn't do that. It drives me absolutely crazy. I always think, how would I feel if somebody came and said, good girl, good girl, good girl to me? I wouldn't like it very much. So, yeah, I ask people please not to do that. Rather use loving touch all along the body so that the animal can be stimulated in a balanced way. We also, many of us don't realize that the skin is the largest organ of the body. So as we are touching this vital organ, we are then stimulating the hormone production within the body. But touch is also the only sense that brings direct contact with the animal. So, whether it's sight, whether it's sound, none of this brings direct contact. So touch is really, really vitally important to their well-being. Some of the effects of touch physically, we've all been in a situation like this. You've got a headache, you rub your head, you've got a tummy ache, you rub your tummy. So it reduces pain. And at the same time, it creates comfort. We do all know what it feels like to have a hug and how good a hug would feel. That's obviously if you're one of those hug people. If you're not, it's not going to feel the same, but certainly for most people, they feel very comforted by a hug. Then the other vitally important aspect of touch is the fact that you will feel the form of your animal. And when we speak about form, I'm speaking about the health. So is this animal healthy? Can I feel too much rib? Can I feel a lump and a bump? It amazes me how people will say, I didn't realize that sore was there. And I mean, the sore's now become septic. It's obviously been there for quite a long time. But people don't touch their animals enough. And then this is the fallout that comes from insufficient touch. So please, I do ask you to really, really touch your animals. Feel for those bites. Feel for those little critters like ticks that are sitting on your animals. And also when you brush them, brush is another form of touch. So you're running the energy, this oxytocin that you love your animal, that you care for your animal, you're running it into the animal's body in order for this animal to feel happy, loved, and cared for. When we get to the emotional and mental aspect of things, development generally, and this has been measured more in children than in animals, but we're pretty sentient, both, you know, animals and humans, so it should be the same. The development in children that are touched is completely different to children that are not touched. Children in orphanages, for instance, where there may be a lot of children and not enough carers and they don't receive the same touch. The mental and physical development is retarded in these children. And as I said, I have no reason to believe that it would be any different with animals. Also, fear reduced once an animal learns how to trust. And isn't this what we want? I mean, is this not what we want for all our animals? And then, of course, lastly, as far as touch is concerned, that bond of love. Nothing can ever surpass that we're spending this time with this animal, touching the largest organ of the body in a very gentle, loving, and a happy way. And therefore, they are able to experience hormone release, happy hormone release. So yeah, we'll take questions at the end. If there's anybody that does have any questions, it would be great to be able to answer them once we are all done. So next I'm going to move on to chakras. And Mark, can you please just put the chakra slide up so we can see the animal chakras? Okay, so this is quite an advanced chakra picture. Most of us are aware of working with 7 chakras. Animals have the same chakras. Online, you will see quite a lot of controversy about this. I never ever understand what this controversy is about, because animals basically, as I mentioned earlier, are sentient, and why would they not have the same energy centers as we do? So for those of you that don't know, and I have a sense that most people on this call do know about this, but chakras are energy centers within the body. They were identified between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago in 2 systems of healing, with Chinese and the Indians, and identified as a major source of comfort, goodwill, and strength within the body. When these chakras are balanced, we have a vital body. So they are energy centers that run in the body and through the body, and in their own way, because they are hopefully being kept balanced, animals and humans will all benefit from it. So the base chakra is situated where the tail meets the spine. The second chakra is generally situated in front of the hind legs, so directly opposite in the space of the male penis and above, you would find the sacral chakra. The solar plexus chakra is around the tummy area, so covers the gut area. We then have the heart, the throat, the brow, which is the third eye, and the crown. And then if we go one step further, since we have the slide with the 12 chakra system on it, we also have the 8th chakra sitting underneath the feet, called the Earth Star. Sorry, my head just lost that for a moment. Called the Earth Star. So that is underneath the feet. Many people refer to it as the 12th chakra rather than the 8th chakra, and it really doesn't matter. Either way, it is the Earth Star. It is the grounding chakra that we all should have in place. And then we have the higher self, the causal body, the soul, and the monad. And these other chakras are all called transpersonal chakras. So we've got the main chakras that are situated along the animal's physical body and also our own. And then we have these transpersonal chakras that are situated outside of the body, and have a huge effect upon where we are in this world spiritually. And our animals are evolving just as we are. So we do not have to think that our animals do not also have a wish to grow in consciousness. And I'm not going to speak any further about that because I could wax on lyrical about our animals and their degree of consciousness, which I think really far surpasses our own as the human race. So when I speak about chakras, why am I even speaking about chakras? In our own animals, it's really important to make sure that their chakras are balanced. Now, people will say, how do I do that? The way that I do it, the way that I teach my students, is to use a pendulum. I'm assuming that everybody knows what a pendulum is. So we're going to keep the slide up, but a pendulum is something that hangs from a string or a chain. And the way that I check the chakras is to go over the first chakra and say, is the chakra balanced in Snoopy's body? And the pendulum will give me a yes or a no. And then we've got the second chakra, which is the sacral chakra. And I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to run the pendulum up the body, and I'm going to ascertain which chakras are balanced and which chakras are out of balance. And then I'm going to work to balance them. Now, should you not use a pendulum, and please, if anybody ever wants to learn how to use a pendulum, please let the school know. I would be more than happy to offer one of these classes in showing people how to use pendulums. But for now, if you don't use a pendulum, what I would recommend you do is that you work on the 12 chakra system by rubbing the animal, so stroking this animal, therefore achieving the touch and at the same time balancing the chakras. So the way that you would do it, and I'm just going to show you on my little stuffed animal over here, is that you take your hand from behind the head. And there's already somebody that's saying hands up for pendulum. So with the greatest of pleasure, Mark is hearing and he organizes all of this. So it's good going. So we take our hand and we put our hand over the head onto the brow chakra, and we gently stroke over the head, along the body, and off of the tail. And we do that 12 times, representing the 12 chakra system over here. So the hand is behind the head, from behind. We don't come from the front because it's very invasive for animals when you approach them from the front. Come from behind, and you are going brow, crown, neck, and all the way down and off of the tail. Okay? With balancing an animal's, or anybody's chakras for that matter, you do need to hold the intent. So you can't be thinking about your grocery list or your holiday, etc., etc. You need actually to be focusing on balancing these chakras. And, I could tell you so many stories about animals and their chakras, and how people say, I'll go and see a client and I'll say these chakras are out. This is what you need to do about it. And they'll phone me a week or two later and they'll say to me, I have a different dog. I don't believe. And I say, well, did you start the remedies? No, all that we did was balance the chakras. So I know that amazing things can happen when an animal is energetically balanced. And it's something that as animal lovers, we should all be checking within our animals. Also, when we are doing the chakras, if an animal's body is really painful, you can work very comfortably off of the body of this animal. You don't have to physically work on the body. And our reason for that is the fact that energetically, the chakras actually sit outside of the physical body, but cross through the physical body. So that is why one is able to balance them in that manner. So again, I'm just going to we go from the brow, we go over the head, one fluid stroke down the spine and off of the tail in order to connect with the animals and balance their chakras. We can also, if there is a specific chakra that is out of balance, let's say with Snoopy over here, that the base chakra is out of balance. You could then literally just rub the area of the base chakra, the second chakra, literally just a rub, third chakra, fourth, and so we go. You can never do any harm by balancing chakras. You can only do good. You're not going to overstimulate them. Don't worry about rubbing clockwise or anti-clockwise. Not important at all. Bearing in mind that a chakra is approximately the size of a fist. So for me, this is the size of my chakras. For my dog Seek, it would be the size of the paw. So they are considerably smaller in the small animals, but it doesn't really matter. It's all intent as to how you rub these chakras. And if you can do that every single day on your animals until they're fully balanced, and once they are, a few times a week, twice, 3 times a week, you see any unacceptable behavior, and I'm going to use the example of those dogs that constantly want to hump everything. Everything and everybody wants to be humped, or they want to hump. These dogs have second chakra issues, okay? The insecure dog, often third and fourth chakra issues. So we are working on those chakras in order to balance these animals, and the effect will be on an emotional level, a physical level, and a mental level, even although it is physical work that we are doing on them. So chakra balancing, very, very important. And then we have minor chakras in the body. And these minor chakras are basically situated right throughout the body. There is a chakra that is situated between the throat and the heart chakra on the neck. So I don't know if one can see over where I'm pointing over here, but between the fourth and the fifth chakra, and it's called the oversoul or the trauma spot. It's a minor chakra that goes out of balance when animals have experienced any trauma. So if there's an animal that comes from a shelter, I'm quite sure, or is in a shelter, I'm quite sure that they will need work on that trauma spot. For many of us, we adopt animals that have been rescued. Trauma spot work is really important. But the lovely thing about being able to do the 12 strokes is that you would automatically be working on the trauma spot as you are doing that. So we're not only focusing on balancing chakras 1 to 12, we are also focusing on balancing the minor chakras throughout the body. Minor chakras in the ears, minor chakras the eyes, in the chest, in the paws, we have minor chakras also. Okay, so right through the body. So when you are working with your animals, touch all areas of the body. If people just realize how important it is to actually do all of this when you have a puppy, touch the ears, touch the feet or the paws, between the paw pads, really and truly do a lot of touching, because in this way, as the animal gets older, it's needing drops put into its eyes, it's needing ears cleaned, nails cut, that we are able to handle our animals without any fear. Really, really important. So that is what we can speak about as far as chakras are concerned. As with so many things, I could speak for days and days, literally, on the importance of balancing chakras for both animals and humans. Then a last point as far as chakras are concerned, I interestingly have found that when I go through something in life where I'm struggling, let's say it is stress, that my own feelings of stress are actually being transmitted to my animals. And we live in very close association with them. You know, my animals sleep on my bed. They are with me. Well, certainly my dog is with me all day and all night. So they pick up on our emotions. And we all know how difficult life is and has been for the last 18 months or so, and all the insecurities at this time that we have come across. And our animals are picking up on it. So please do work on your animal chakras, and please do touch them with loving thoughts and with positivity in mind. And if you have an animal that is sensitive, you touch with the back of your hand. Far less invasive when you touch with the back of your hand. So you go with the back of your hand over the brow, over the head, and by that time you can normally turn your hand around and touch the rest of the body. Just really important that we do remember this. So yeah, I'd like to go on to our next slide, please, Mark, our body wrap slide. Okay, so there was this wonderful lady, and there still is this wonderful lady by the name of Linda Tillington Jones, and she came up with this healing method, and I'm literally speaking to you or showing you one of the wraps. And this is, you know, it's a 1 hour talk, and in a 1 hour talk, I do not want to bombard you with too much information, but the use of wraps has such a lot of good effect upon the body. And this is a simple, as I mentioned, half wrap. The half wrap is known to assist animals that are nervous, animals that are aggressive, animals that are reactive. All cope really, really nicely. When you're working with or you have your own animal that is a fear-based animal, and for myself, who adopted a dog, an elderly dog, and I've only had Seek for 6 months, there certainly is a lot that he struggles with emotionally. And one of my reasons for wanting him, I think, wanting to give him a chance, is just to be able to help him with all these insecurities. So easy to surrender a dog that is damaged, but so rewarding and fulfilling to actually work with that dog and find a space of being able to help them so that they can benefit. So fear definitely is one of those things that we can address with a wrap. Car sickness works amazingly. My cat, who died in January, she died a week before she turned 20, so she had a really, really good long life, and she was a prime example of body wraps working. So I put her in the car, and I live in Hout Bay. I would be halfway down to go towards Kenilworth, where the specialist was, and poor Crystal will start vomiting, and her tummy would be runny, and she would be very, very uncomfortable. And the first time this happened, I just thought, oh, you know, car sick. And the second time it happened, I actually stayed tuned into her as an animal communicator, and I couldn't believe how nauseous she was. I mean, she was just so, so sick. And the next time I decided, okay, we got to wrap her. So I wrapped her, and I got a lot of interesting remarks when I reached the vets as to why my cat was wrapped up in this green bandage, which happened to just be a belt that I had. So when we're speaking about wrapping, we don't have to have anything special. It can be a material belt. It can be crepe bandage. What really works nicely is this elasto crepe bandage, and one can get it nice thick bandage, or for the smaller dogs, or for a cat, a thinner type bandage. A crepe bandage works amazingly. What I do want to say is that if you are going to bandage your dog for whatever reason, let's say neurological reasons, your dog is having, or your cat's having fits, you're trying to get them to get the fits under control, the body balance is bad because there's been neurological issues, there's musculoskeletal issues, all of these, you can wrap the animal, but I would recommend that you start with a half wrap. So literally, you are taking, my cat is here, and maybe he will allow us to wrap him. So Mark, if we can just get onto the full screen, please. Okay, so we've got Echo over here. And the way that you would do this is you would take your wrap and you would divide it in half. You take the halfway point and you put it around the chest neck area. Okay, so you put it around the chest neck area, and then you wrap it around the body and under and over. And then it generally, oopsie, doesn't want to stick in this instance, but it generally looks something like that. Thank you, my boy. Thank you. And that's what it generally looks like. Now, cats are notoriously bad with wraps. Many of them just stop walking when you put a wrap on, but it certainly does help them to calm down really nicely. This bandage has been used so many times it actually doesn't want to stick, but generally it would stick. If you are going to bandage their bodies, I'm going to recommend that you don't tie a knot onto the spine. You actually allow the knot to be tied onto the side of the body. Also, please not to use a safety pin, but you can use a baby pin. So you're going to use a pin that's got something that can actually prevent the pin coming apart and sticking into the animal. So that is the basic half wrap. And I really can't believe that this boy is being so sweet and allowing us to do this. Now, another time that I've used this wrap, thank you, my boy. Thank you, baby. Another time that I've used this wrap with great success was when a client had a cat that had to start wearing a collar, and the cat was completely, I mean, the minute you put the collar on, this cat went berserk. It absolutely would not wear the collar. And they were moving to an estate where it was a rule that the animals had to have collars on. What we do with cats, because they can be so intolerant, is that you literally take the wrap and just hang it over the body. Okay, so you start off just hanging it over the body like that. And normally the cat will wriggle away and you just leave them. You don't try and force it. You then, thank you, Claire, Echo does rock. He's been a very good boy. Then you maybe just take it and loosely put it over the body like that. And you leave it. And then you finally can go all the way around and tie it up completely. Now, there are many, many body wraps that are available. And if one goes online, you can see the wraps that are available, full body wraps, head wraps, and they all have wonderful effect. And the way that we understand the effect of these wraps, it's almost like swaddling a baby. So you are, don't know those of you that know babies, but when often when one baths a baby, it has the startle effect. When you wrap them and they're feeling nice and contained, you put them into the water in that wrapped form. You find that this baby doesn't cry, the baby's far more relaxed in the water. So I've advised to people that are needing to bath their animals, maybe animals that need frequent baths because they've got skin conditions like pyoderma, for instance, that you use a wrap and that you actually wash them with a wrap on, because it creates such a wonderful feeling of containment. I think this is something in life that we all enjoy. It's that feeling of wearing something that's nice and warm. I talk about it, you feel like you're wearing a hug, like a shawl that you're putting over your shoulders to keep you contained. And Animals are exactly the same. It really and truly benefits them. So if there's fear of them, they're fearful to go to the vet, they are insecure because you have visitors. All these instances, one could very comfortably allow them to have a wrap on to help them to feel secure. So I'm just watching the time over here because I'd like to leave some time for questions. Wearing a hug, yeah, absolutely. I love that idea too. I have some jerseys that were knitted many years ago by my mother, and I hold on to those jerseys because they really and truly feel as if it's a wrap that it's a hug that my mom is giving me. So they have not only fond memories, but they also have that lovely comforting feeling for ourselves. Lastly, and Mark, if we can have the next slide, please. I'd like to speak to you about some natural remedies. Now, there is so much, I mean, there are so many products out these days that we can use for animals to calm them down, natural products that we can use to keep ticks and fleas at bay. And please just take note, I'm not saying that these remedies will prevent tick and flea infestation, but it certainly does reduce it a lot. So the calming spritzer that I've got up first with crab apple, which is a flower remedy. You'll see there lavender hydrosol rescue remedy, and then you put it into a spritzer bottle with distilled or spring water. I have always been amazed at how well this calming spritzer works. So when animals are being relocated, they're traveling from into a new home, they're traveling on aeroplanes and things like that, I would say you spray their linen and you keep them nice and calm like that. Now, I do have a very similar recipe for the calming spritzer that has lavender essential oil. A big problem over here, and I think more so in our country than in South Africa than in other countries, is, well, in first world countries, is that we often get mixes of our oils. So animals, specifically cats, more so than dogs, are unable to metabolize the essential oils. So in the essential oils, what you get when you distill an oil, excuse me, is that you separate the oil from the water part of the plant. And the oils contain phenols and ketones. And cats do not have the ability or the enzyme in their bodies to break down phenols and ketones. So I strongly recommend that you rather use hydrosols. If you are going to use, in this calming spritzer, if you are going to use lavender essential oil, please make sure that you do not spray it into the room when the animals are there. So you can spray it into the room whenever, pardon me, the animal is out, and the effect will still be very similar. But I'm far more comfortable with the use of hydrosols than I am. And you can buy these online quite easily. Pardon me. All right. And then about the flea and the tick spray, two more remedies that can be sprayed directly onto the animals. And I'm totally amazed at how well these work. So do you still, as I mentioned earlier on, do you still find an occasional tick? Yes, you would, but they don't want to be on the animals. You know, they're not attracted to being on these animals at all. And again, touch comes in here. So when we are touching these animals, when we're touching their bodies all along the body with these sprays, allowing it to go into the fur, we are doing some more of that loving touch. So please be careful, be very careful. You know, I say to my clients, you don't burn essential oils in your home when you have animals around. If you're going to be using incense, you make sure that windows and doors are wide open and not with the animal in the room directly, because they are dangerous and they will create health problems within your animals. You know, inadvertently, some years ago, I was using essential oils, and I was busy working with a human client, and my cat came into the room, and I'm so accustomed to touching when they come into the room, and I touched her, and about an hour later I thought something not right with her, and then it struck me that there isn't something not right with her, because I had, with essential oils on my hands, I had actually touched her. She had licked and then ingested the essential oil like that. I obviously phoned the vet immediately. The vet had said we need to give fluids, and because of that very long nursing history, I'm very comfortable giving fluids. So I did subcutaneous fluids on her, and the following day she was absolutely fine. But if this is repeated, you've got that oil burner in your bedroom, and you're always burning the lavender, you're always burning whatever it is that you like to burn, your animals are going to be affected by it. So please be very, very careful not to do them any harm like that. I did mention that the hydrosols are available online. I am not sure whether, I've always got mine from friends that have been traveling from the UK, or I've ordered directly online, but never ever have I actually seen them in the shop. And I'm quite sure that there must be some shops that do keep the hydrosols. I just don't personally know of them. So if anybody does know of shops that do hydrosols, please will you just put that onto the chat group. So as far as natural remedies are concerned, please just be very careful. Herbs can be quite damaging to animals, but they can also be very useful. And allowing your animals to experience different herbs in your garden in their own right. They know what's good for them, so they will go to those herbs and those spices that are good for them. You know, we know that cats, for instance, 70% of cats have active receptors to enjoy the smell of catnip, but 30% don't. And I don't know what the difference is, why the difference within their body that 30% won't enjoy that, but you might find that they would enjoy another herb or a spice. So allow them to find those things that they enjoy, and be ever mindful of plants. And when I speak about plants, I'm speaking about both herbs and ornamental type plants and shrubs and bushes that are poisonous to animals. Many of us don't realize how many of them are dangerous, and we must please just, you know, go online, have a look, and be careful that you don't have any of your animals affected by this. So there we go, soil.co.za for hydrosol. Thanks, Gillian. You can get them obviously directly from there. So thanks for that. Soil also does a very good range of organic oils that they won't, and they don't mix their oils. So when I speak about lavender and I say that crested lavender is dangerous, the other lavenders aren't dangerous. So when you buy a mixed lavender oil, you have no idea. It just says lavender oil on the bottle. You have no idea that there is crested lavender in that bottle. At the same time, I would tell you that crested lavender itself can be dunked into water very safely, dunked into the water, into hot water, and your animal can be rubbed with the water from the plant, or the infused water, without any ill effect. So it is, once it has actually been made into an essential oil, that the problem seems to exist. So thank you everybody for listening to me. I do hope that there was something this evening that you have learned, and something that you can share with other people, so that animals can experience full lives with good health. And you know, I mean, I know that we as human beings are becoming more and more aware of animals and their rights. And I can only thank you all for for being prepared to be on a call like this on a Wednesday evening in order to help your animals. So thanks very much, everybody. And questions, I am more than happy to take. So let's hear.
Right. Thanks very much, Debbie. There are a lot of questions. I'll try and get through all of them, or as many of them as possible, and I'll sort of collate the similar questions. The first question from Cheryl is, how do I know for sure that I'm connected to the animal that I would like to connect with? I'm guessing that refers to distance healing.
So, you know, I mentioned it earlier on when I said intent. You know, intent will connect us automatically. An open, loving heart will connect us automatically. And it is literally coming from the space of how can I help, as to how you connect with this animal or not. If you, Cheryl, are referring to communicating with an animal, that can be a different form of connection, because we are connecting energy field to energy field, whereas when we are connecting with an animal that we are working on physically, our connection is through touch, our connection is through intent. So yeah, it comes automatically when one has an open heart and one wants to help. I hope that that answers your question.
Great, thanks, Debbie. The next question from Liz is as follows. What if your pet doesn't like touch at all? He's always near, but doesn't want to be touched unless he is asking for food.
Okay. Liz, good idea to do the little bits of treats, excuse me, as you are touching them. So you create that messaging system that, I'm sorry, people. You create that messaging system that as you're touching the animal, there is a reward, and eventually they start accepting touch. Another form of touch that works really well is with a feather. So you're taking a feather and you're just moving down the body with a feather. And I'm yet to come across an animal that reacts badly to being touched with a feather. You know, a cat normally wants to clap it a couple of times, but dogs are generally quite comfortable with it. And starting with a small area, just putting your hand onto that area. So not actually doing the full rubs or even the chakra rubs, just putting your hand onto the area. Slowly but surely getting them accustomed to touch. With dogs that we've had all their lives, there's sometimes, and we can't understand, nobody's ever hurt this dog. Why is this dog behaving like this? It's often cellular memory. You know, the mother was badly treated. And these animals don't even have to be in utero when this happens. It can be a mother that's been badly treated. She's then become pregnant. She's then had her puppies, and they carry the cellular memory of the mother. So there is a big chance that it isn't somebody that has actually damaged this animal in this lifetime, but from the mom. So gentle, gentle touch. Just a finger, just maybe a nice soft cloth, all will help to get the animal to feel more comfortable around touch.
Great, thank you, Debbie. The next is a combination of questions. When balancing the chakras, should the dog be standing? And what about the bottom chakras? You know, you're sort of doing the work along the animal's back. What about the front side?
Okay, so the animal can be lying or sitting. It really makes, or stand. It really makes no difference. And we don't have to, I'm sorry that I wasn't clear about this. We don't have to work top and bottom. We can just work on the top of the animal if that is where they are comfortable. I, for instance, would not want to work on the bottom of the base chakra, because my hand would be right up against their bums, and that's like the last thing that I want to be doing. The same as the male penis. I don't want to be working on that area. I'm working above the body. So I'm working only along the top of the body. But if your animal is comfortable, you could be doing the heart chakra here but you could also be doing the heart chakra on the back of the animal. So it just depends on how they are comfortable. If you're dealing with a very ill animal and it's lying on its side, you just do your best. You just touch wherever you are able to touch along the body. Obviously the sweep, 12 sweep really works very, very easily because it can be done off of the body or on the physical body, and one can normally get to this animal. However, if you're working on, let's say you are working on a horse, you know, I'm a bit short, so for me to be working on a big horse, I can't reach the top of their bodies to actually do their chakras. So I work along the side of the body, and it's all acceptable because the chakras are situated outside of the body, all around. So if he was real, his chakras would be sitting all in the energy field around him. So we don't have to physically touch the body. We can work off of the body with the same effect. And just by pure intent. I've been doing a little bit of research on my own, just looking at animals that are really sensitive to touch, and how by looking at the chakra, how we can actually stimulate that chakra purely by putting the intent that we are through our eyes sending balancing to that chakra, and it seems to work a charm. So there are many ways of doing the chakras.
Great, thanks, Debbie. A question from Sarah. My female cat occasionally sprays around the house. We have 2 dogs and 2 other cats who all live in harmony. All the animals are spayed and neutered. What could help to get her to stop? Okay,
so we always with cats, and I find it even more specifically with female cats, because it's so unusual that a female cat does spray. Not impossible, but unusual. I would want to take a urine sample off to the vets just to check the urine to make sure that there isn't any form of infection, because female cats notoriously are known to spray when there is a bladder infection. So that would be the one thing. If it is the typical, you know, that tail that goes up and they do this thing and they spray, that would be very unusual for it to be a urinary tract infection. I would recommend that you try the calming spritzer. There is some effect when one actually puts a calming collar onto them. However, I find that the spritzer works really, really well. Don't be reluctant to balance her chakras, because you would quite possibly find that the chakras are out of balance and therefore she is not feeling contained within herself and behaving in that manner. I really and truly hope that that comes right, because it is most annoying when they do that. But you know, cats do not do that because they're spiteful. They're doing it because there's something that is bugging them. And you may just want to get chakras balanced first. Check and see, if you do the spritzer, what result you get. And after that, maybe it's time to have a little chat with the cat to find out exactly what it is that is plaguing her as to why she's behaving as she is. I hope it comes right easily, though.
All right. Yeah, there are a few other questions. I was just going to find the link for people to post that into the chat box. But let's have one more question, because time is running out. And
Pardon
me. From Annika,
my cat is standing on the counter, giving me the filthiest look because he wants me to switch the tap on. So he's saying, "It's 9 o'clock, Mom. Come on."
Yes, our cat also likes to drink from a running tap. Annika says, "Can you give her any tips for working with an African grey parrot?"
Pretty much the same. I would tell you the rule, and I learned this from one of my students in the 1-year course. She's an amazing 16-year-old that has an affinity for birds, and she said, if it's got any smell, you never use it. So anything with a smell you don't use. So those recipes that I have given you would definitely not be for birds. Their chakras are exactly the same. you are going to do precisely the same type of work with them. Birds are a very small part of my practice. I work with them occasionally, but I do not work with them regularly, and I would not consider myself a knowledgeable person in the with working with birds. But I do find that we do exactly the same chakra rubs. In this case, you are only using a finger. So you're working above the head, you're working all the way down, and in that way you are balancing their chakras. But please, nothing with a smell. So please, none of those sprays.
Thank you, Debbie. I mean, there's so many questions coming through. We just don't have the time to go through them all. So I'm really sorry to anyone whose question hasn't been asked. We do need to wrap things up. But Debbie, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and your wisdom this evening. I know everybody's enjoyed it. There have already been some messages of thanks and gratitude coming through in the chat. So thank you so much.
It is a real pleasure. And certainly for myself, you know, I take every opportunity in the book to be able to speak to people about animals and animal care. And I just think that because we are so aware of our animals these days, we are just going to get that many more brownie points one day when we reach heaven, because our animals are sentient and they deserve the same type of care as we get. So thank you everybody for joining me this evening.